Okay. All right. So this week we were talking about line and shape in design, those design elements. Okay. So the big assignment project for this week for this section. Pull it up here. You're going to trace a photo or use a photo kind of as a template to create a kind of contour line type illustration. Okay, so we can do that pretty easily with a tool like Photoshop. So I do it quite a bit. So I'm going to show you guys how to do some simple stuff there with, I'm sorry if I said Photoshop, I meant Illustrator. So it's Adobe Illustrator. And if you've never used Illustrator before, it's a little different than Photoshop. Basically, it's a vector shape-based tool. Okay, so it's used to create vector-based illustrations. All right, so instead of bitmap, all right, so we're not dealing with pixels, we're dealing with vector format, which is a little different because it uses computer logic to create the shapes. They're scalable. They have transparency, alpha channels kind of already built into them. All right, so a little bit different than dealing with pixels and bitmaps in Photoshop. But I'm going to show you a couple tricks here for creating some cool looking illustrations. So I'm going to start with a new file here. We'll just do 8.5 by 11, that's fine. All right, and so the layout, the overall layout of the user interface is pretty similar to what you would see in Photoshop or Adobe InDesign. All the Adobe programs are pretty similar in the way that they're laid out in the workspace. Okay, so we have our tool panel over here with like our selection tools, the magic wand, our pen tools, line, different shape tools where you can do circles, polygons, rectangles, brush tool, so paintbrush tool, eraser. And then we have a lot of different other tools here for working with some of the vector shapes. Okay, so we won't get too much into those. We cover that more in some of the more advanced digital media classes. But you can create some illustrations by using a vector or by importing some bitmap images. Okay, so I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go to File, Place, and I have a couple, I'm going to do a couple different ones here. I'm going to do this first one of a leaf. Okay, so this is just a JPEG image, right? So it's a bitmap image made out of pixels. Get that centered there. All right, so right now it's just a bitmap image that's brought into a layer in Illustrator. All right, so what I want to do, I'm going to go up here to my window and find my image trace tool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the advanced tab there. And I'm going to use this image trace logic that's built into Illustrator to basically what I'm going to do is convert this from bitmap pixels to vectors. All right, so I'm going to click the image. And I'm going to just start with some of the presets here. Let's just try low fidelity photo for now. All right, you can see it's working. What it does is it starts clustering the pixels in the image into vector shapes. Okay, so if I zoom in here, so you can kind of see how we're starting to, it's finding all those pixels of the same similar color and starting to group them into these vector shapes, okay? All right, so let's try a couple other options here because what I want to do is basically cut that leaf out and have it as kind of an illustration. We could try, see what it looks like with maybe, let's try sketched art. Okay, so there it's kind of, it's a little wacky. It kind of took a little too much out of there as far as the information. Okay, so that one's not going to really work. We could try shades of gray just to see what that might look like. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Let me zoom in here on the leaf. Okay, so we're getting still a little too much detail for what I want. Okay, so I want to get down to maybe more of the basic shapes. So I can use this though. I'm gonna select that, and here in the panel, I'm gonna take the amount of grays down. Let's just try like 10. So you can see it kind of simplified that a little bit more. Let me try it even, let me even go down to like maybe 5 or 4. All right, so there we're getting a little bit closer to what I want. You can also adjust the paths and the corners. Okay, so paths are the basically the outline of the shapes. So all these different shapes are creating these paths. And so we can simplify some of that. So let's just take that all the way down to like 10%. Okay, and let's take our corners, take them all the way down to like 5. So again, corners are just the corners of the shapes. So I'm just trying to simplify it a little bit. And I want to go down, I'm gonna just take it down to like 3 colors here, or 3 shades of gray. All right, so that's, let me zoom back out here. Let's try working with that. All right, so next thing what I have to do, I'm going to click on that image file there, and I'm going to use this button here in the top toolbar called Expand. And what I've done now is I've converted all of those elements into individual paths and shapes, so I can make them selectable. Okay, so now I can start getting rid of that background. So I'm just going to click on them, and I'm just going to hit delete on the keyboard, because the only thing I want here is that leaf. A little piece there, get rid of. Okay. I can select, you can select multiple shapes as well. Selecting these and deleting them. Zoom in here a little bit. All right, so I'm using the direct select tool just because I want to directly select all these different shapes. And we'll get rid of inside part there. Okay, so that's not bad. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I can directly select some of these paths. Okay, so like this guy here, I want to select some of these anchor points, and I want to actually go and kind of adjust some of the leaf here. kind of fill in some of those spaces. And then the one thing, I want to make the stem, bring that stem back. So I'm going to take that anchor point down. I'm going to have to zoom in really far in here. That guy too. I still need to make that a little bit wider. Sometimes you have to really zoom in to get some of these anchor points. There we go. Just take that all the way out there. Yeah, I could keep working on that and make that a little bit thicker probably, but so anyway, that's kind of the basics how you do that. You can convert the bitmaps to vector shapes, and then so if I wanted to, I could go in and get rid of some of these little white pieces in there, fill in those areas a little bit. Like I said, maybe adjust some more of those points on the leaf. But basically, it's a nice, easy way to get to something that you can then create kind of a neat illustration with. Because remember, the thing we're focusing on this week is shape and lines. Okay, so I'm really wanting to focus on creating some unique shapes and then using line to create those contours of the object. All right. And then Illustrator, you can save this stuff out. So I could export. I could export that out as a GIF or a JPEG or PNG. Some other options. I could do a file, save as, and down here in format, I could do EPS or a PDF or a SVG file. Okay, so those are kind of all PDF and SVG kind of standard formats there. Adobe.ai is the only proprietary file type. Okay, so that one would only be able to open with Illustrator. But if you save this out as an EPS, PDF, or SVG, you'd be able to open that with other tools as well, like Inkscape. All right, so let's try one more. So we'll create another new document here. And I'm gonna place, again, I'm gonna go to File, Place. This time I'm gonna do a portrait. All right, let's get that centered. All right, so again, I'm gonna go back to my image trace tool window here. Default, let's start with, yeah, let's just do high fidelity, see what it does here. And then kind of just depending on how big your photo is, how complex, how many pixels are in it, just might take a little bit longer for the AI within the program to figure everything out. Okay, so looks about the same, right? But it's kind of cool because now if I start to zoom in here, okay, you can start seeing all those vector shapes that are creating the image. Okay, so this one would be really complex. I mean, we got probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of paths and different anchor points within there. Okay, so I want to get this kind of simple. So let's try a couple of the other ones here. Let's see what maybe sketched art looks like. And it's going to take it down to black and white. So that's a pretty stark contrast, right? But if you were going for something, you know, creepy, maybe something for Halloween, or, you know, you could get a pretty cool effect there just by using this. Let's try, again, some of these shades of gray. Default, it starts out at 50. Okay, so we got that. It's pretty interesting looking. But I want to make it even a little bit more simple. So I'm going to go to, let's try 6 colors. So now I'm going to convert all of the pixels and bitmaps within that image. We're going to cluster everything into 6 different color values. Okay, so this is kind of more what I'm looking for, because I want to just get some general ideas of, you know, some of the shapes that are creating this portrait image. All right, so I might even take it down even more. Let's just go down to 3 colors. All right, I kind of like that. And then again, on the paths, I'm going to take those way down, like 4 or 5%. And then I'll adjust the corners as well. And this other one, noise, you can use that to, sometimes different JPEGs make a lot more noise within the file structure, the way they're set up. So you can adjust that as well. Okay, and then my corners, I'm gonna take those way down. I'm gonna go through one more pass here. All right, I like that. Okay, let's go ahead and hit expand. Okay, so now we're converting all of these shapes into selectable vector images. Okay, and then I could go in, maybe I'd want to hide that box for now. So maybe change that color. We can do something crazy here, make it like a purple. I don't like the purple. Maybe like a, let's do like a really dark red. And that one. I mean, we could go, you can get really wild here. So you can kind of see the power of what Illustrator can do for you. I'm gonna undo those. All right, so you're looking at the initial object. Let me just place it again real quick. And you're trying to figure out, you know, what are my main shapes here? Okay, so we got this kind of the forehead area. You can see there's some highlights through there, some darker shadows to kind of create that shape of the nose, the lips and the mouth. This dark area here, where her neck would be, and then just kind of wavy shapes for the hair. Okay, so you kind of get that in your head, and then try to break those down into the basic shapes and lines. All right, so that's Illustrator. It's a pretty cool program to use. Let me show you real quick. There are, so we have Illustrator on all of the Macs on campus. Okay, so the Digital Media Lab, we have Adobe Creative Cloud on there, which has all the Adobe software. There are some free open source programs. One of them is Inkscape. It has some basic image tracing functionality like we were doing that you can work with in there. I mean, it's nothing near what Illustrator can do, but it does have some that you can play with. Right. And then I wanted to show everybody, there's another program. If you're looking for an alternative to the Adobe software, Affinity. Okay, so they have a couple of different products that you might be interested in. One's called Photo, which is basically Photoshop. It has a lot of the same tools as Photoshop. Okay, it's a pretty nice program. The other one's called Designer, and this would be kind of their version of Illustrator. Again, so you can do a lot of these same things that Illustrator does. And the one nice thing about these versus the Adobe software, they're just a one-time fee for the purchase. Okay, so like $50, and then you have that software for life. Where Adobe has switched to the monthly license format, kind of like a lot of other big software companies are doing. Which if you're going to be going into web design and digital media design, it's important to use the Adobe software just because it's the industry standard. Okay, so that's why we teach that in all of our digital media classes. That's what professionals and all the studios and businesses that do this type of stuff, they all use Adobe. But these are some nice programs just to have on hand, a little bit more cost effective. So you might look into those. I think there's free trials for both of these as well if you want to try them out and see how they work. All right. So that's all I got today. So thanks for being with me, James.
Yeah, no problem.
So hopefully, had you seen that before with Illustrator on how to do some of that stuff?
I have not. I've seen the images in the hall, and I was wondering if they were done manually or what, like last year. But no, I hadn't seen the process.
Yeah, those. So that's kind of how when we get to the pumpkin project next month, this will come in handy because you'll be able to create those shapes for the pumpkin, kind of using this technique.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I got. Have a good weekend. I'll post this video to Canvas so you can review it, and I'll have the other students take a look at it. So.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay. Talk to you later.
See you.
Bye.